Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Very warm good morning to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. I welcome you all to today's analysis of the Hindu newspaper. As you know, every single day at 10 a.m. we bring this live analysis for you where we try and pick up the most relevant articles from the Hindu newspaper of that day, and that is also what we'll be discussing today. All that you have to do to join in on time is to make sure that you have already subscribed to our channel so that you can get all the notifications on time. Also, don't forget to revise this by attending the daily quiz that we have on our Telegram channel right after the session ends. So make sure that you have joined our Telegram channel as well. For doing that, you can use the link given in the description of the video. Now, a couple of very important announcements before we go down to our articles. First, tonight, that is at 8 p.m. live on our YouTube, we will be having a discussion on the expectations that we have from the union budget that will be released tomorrow. Also, to build on that, we will also be having a live session tomorrow night. Please do note, there's a live session tonight on the expectations of the union budget. Then tomorrow night, we will be discussing and analyzing the key highlights of the union budget at 8 p.m. Both these sessions will be live at 8 p.m. Don't forget to attend them. Now, let's begin with the very first article that we have for you from the Hindu newspaper today. The first article that we have here for you is based on the importance of millets. Now, you would have noticed that there are a lot of articles written on the concept of millets in the past few months, and there are good reasons for that. The reason being that 2023 is actually renowned or is regarded as the International Year of Millets by the FAO. FAO is a Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. They regard the 2023 year as the National Year of Millets. Now, this 2023 being regarded as a National Year of Millets is actually the reason because India actually started this. India requested that we should have a year that is dedicated to millets. It is very often that UN usually dedicates certain years to certain important concepts that the entire world should know about. That is mostly to raise awareness about these kind of things so that the world across should adopt these kind of things. Now, if you actually see, millets have a great importance for India for various reasons. Now, millets is a generic term used for a number of cereals, and I'll show you what those cereals are. Mainly because, number one, they have great nutritious value. Number two, growing millets does not require as much water as rice and wheat would. Now, you also know India prominently, if you look at our diet, we prominently are people who depend a lot on wheat and on rice. Millets, on the other hand, do not really find a great part of our plate in a daily, day-to-day our meals. However, millets can be extremely powerful if we utilize them to fulfill the gap of nutrition that we face in India today. And that is why millets are extremely important. However, there are two aspects of this story. Number one, in order for millet consumption to increase, the government has to encourage people to eat more millets, number one. On the other hand, government also has to ensure a good supply of millets. So government has to work on both the sides, supply and demand. Supply side, the government has to ensure that farmers are encouraged to grow as much millets as possible. On the demand side, the government also has to ensure that the end consumer actually consumes millet. So both are the responsibilities of the government. In both of these, as per the author here, there are a few barriers that we are facing in India. First, the author here says that two groups of millets are grown in India. Major millets are sorghum, pearl millet, finger millet, etc. While the minor ones, which are consumed in a very less quantity, are kodo, proso, little millet, etc. Now, if you see, usually in India, whenever you see farmers growing rice or wheat, the major reason behind why a lot of farmers, let's say in agri states such as Punjab, Western UP, Haryana, why a lot of farmers grow rice and wheat is that they are sure that their rice and wheat will be bought by the government because the government wants these things to distribute under the PDS system. So government will buy these from the farmers, the government already has the MSP, so farmers are also sure that our rice and wheat will be bought easily. The same is not an assurance that the farmers have under millets. So farmers have been saying, if you want us to towards millets, you also have to give us an assurance for all the millets, and not just give an assurance, actually buy this at a good price. This is actually not happening. If you look at the numbers, PDS means public distribution system. Public distribution system, public distribution scheme, these are those food grains which are distributed to poor people at a very, very subsidized price. Like you have the National Food Security Program, under which you get millets at 1 rupees per kg, wheat at 2 rupees per kg, and rice at 3 rupees per kg. That is PDS. Apart from that, we also have the Integrated Child Development Scheme. Usually midday meal is a part of this program. So if you see the midday meal, if you see the PDS, if you see how much millets are used in that, they are a very, very small portion as compared to rice and wheat. See, the problem is, you can't expect all of a sudden to change people their habit. If I ask you today that would you stop eating chapatis and rotis made up of rice? From today, would you automatically start eating rotis that is made up of millets? You might not be able to do it overnight. Right? It's a very gradual process. You might like to eat, let's say, chapati made of bajra, jowar, etc. But that will not really happen overnight. It's an acquired taste. Similarly, you can't expect overnight the millet consumption to increase in India, but that has to be the responsibility of the government. If you see in 2019-2020, the total production of these nutri-cereals was about 47.7 million tons. This is much lesser as compared to the wheat and rice production. Amongst all the millets, maize is the one that we actually produce in large quantity. Maize is consumed not really by human beings, although human beings also consume it, but maize is actually mostly used as a feed for animals. It's used as a cattle feed actually. So those who have a poultry farm, those who actually undertake, those who let's say have a lot of animals who have domesticated them, all these maize etc. are used as a feed for them. As per the author, if you look at the millet production in India, the millet production also is not increasing at a fast pace. In fact, there is low productivity that we are seeing over the years. Why? Basically because we have not really focused a lot on increasing its production. See, when the Green Revolution started in India, and even today, most of our focus is on increasing the production of rice, wheat, etc. Because we think this is what most of our population consumes, and this is what we can sell in the market also outside India. For millets, we don't really pay a lot of focus here. And as per the author, 2023 is the year that we can actually go ahead and make it count, because 2023 is the International Year of Millets. That too because India was the one that started this entire initiative. So as we discussed earlier, the government of India has to make sure that from both the sides, the supply side also and the consumption side also, from both of these sides, the government of India has to increase that demand. Now, as you can see here, there are a lot of different types of millets that are grown all across the country in different states altogether. However, the number is just not in comparison to rice and wheat. Now, there are other initiatives also that the government of India has taken in the past to promote millets, not just the initiative that we wanted 2023 as the International Year of Millets. Within India in 2018, the Union Agriculture Ministry declared nutri-cereals that will be considered to be called as nutri-cereals because of their high nutritive value. Not just this, the government also said that they have anti-diabetic properties. In fact, 2018 was considered as a National Year of Millets. Not just this, Government of India has also revamped the National Food Security Mission. As I told you, under the National Food Security Mission, we do provide millets. But understand this, and I have a question here also in the chat. See, when the government says that if we want to provide millets under the PDS at 1 rupees per kg, government will only sell if the people want it. Government will not forcefully give you millets that no, eat this, because that can't happen. Under the food security program, if you get rice at 3 rupees per kg, if you get wheat at 2 rupees per kg, if you get millets at 1 rupees per kg, that depends on how much do you actually want. It's not that government will automatically give you this much of millets or this much of rice or wheat, etc. That is not how it works. So government can't forcefully actually ask people to consume. It depends upon the demand that we have from the side of the people. The $14 billion agriculture infrastructure fund has also been pushing a lot of investment into millets. Different states have also done this. For example, Odisha government has launched a 5-year mission millet. Other states also, for example, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana have also realized this, because as I told you earlier, there are very, very important properties of millets that can help us solve multiple problems. Number one, high in nutrition. So whenever you see India's ranking on the hunger index not being that great, that is mainly because our nutritious needs are not being provided to the people, number one. And secondly, as I told you, when you grow these millets, they are able to grow in those environments where even rice and wheat finds it difficult to grow. So they don't require as much water as rice and wheat. They don't require or as much suitable climate. They can even grow in other climates which are not really susceptible. And that is why we have a situation where at the end of the day, the millets have to be given certain preference over the other types of crops that we have. Then comes article number 2. The second article that we have here is based on the Padma awards that were recently given. Now, as you know, Padma awards are announced on the 26th of January. Now, this article is a very interesting article on the question of whether Padma awards were given to deserving people in the field of science and technology or not. Now, what is the author saying? Let's try and understand this. The point that the author is making is that recently, when the Padma awards were announced, they were announced to a few people in the field of science and technology. However, they are not really scientists. The people who have been given these Padma awards have not really made any scientific discovery as such. So the author here is actually raising questions on these Padma awards, especially in the field of science and technology. I'll tell you examples as well. Author is talking about 2 examples. The first example he's talking about is Mr. Cheruvayal K. Raman. He was given Padma Shri. Why? For having conserved more than 50 rice varieties in the modest farm in Wayanad. So he conserved a different type of his rice varieties in Wayanad. Now the problem is he is not a scientist. He has not written any scientific papers. Writing scientific papers means that you would have to get your research under the examination of other scientists. Peer-to-peer review would happen. The other scientists can ask you questions. You have to then justify how and why have you carried out that particular form of research. Only then your scientific paper will be published. However, in this case, what has happened is, as per the author, just because someone has conserved a lot of varieties of rice without any scientific method, yes, the government can give them Padma Shri, but that should not be called as a Padma Shri under science and technology. As per the author, this is actually being very unfair to those who belong to a scientific community, because they spend years and years of time, they spend decades in learning about the proper scientific methods. And when someone without a proper scientific method being applied is given such kind of an award, it is actually discouraging for the scientific community. So he says that Mr. Raman could have been given an award, but most probably he should have been given an award for conserving plant agrodiversity. So he should be given an award for, let's say, agriculture and seeds, and not under science and technology. Because as per the author, science and technology is a very different thing altogether. You have to get it reviewed, you have to get it researched, and that is not how it should happen. He gives one more example. The other example that the author here gives is of Mr. Khader Wali Dudkola. He says that he was also given the Padma Shri award. Why? Because he has popularized the dietary benefits of millets. Now this is very interesting. See, at one end, the government of India has taken up the responsibility that we want to popularize millets. So the government of India, because the year 2023 is the International Year of Millets, the government of India wants as many people to consume millets as possible. Keeping that in mind, the government of India gave this Padma Shri to Mr. Dudkola because he has been popularizing millets and he has been talking to people saying that millets has a lot of dietary benefits. In fact, He has even claimed that millets can even cure and prevent cancer, diabetes, ovarian syndrome, all these things. He has even said to people that millets can avoid consumption, or you can actually avoid consumption of milk, eggs, non-vegetarian food, etc. Now, this is also something that is not proven at all by science. This is a huge red flag. As per the author, how can the government give a Padma Shri to someone who has been spreading some ideas which are not even proven by science? No scientific record has proven that millets can actually prevent or cure cancer. No scientific record has proven that by using millets, you can actually prevent a lot of other diseases. Yes, millets have their own good nutrition. Millets can help you in some ways. But to claim that it will actually cure cancer, that is giving a very, very wrong impression. At the same time, the same person has been saying that you should not consume milk, eggs, non-vegetarian food, etc. So, as per the author, when the government gives these kind of people award and say that we are giving them an award in the field of science and technology, that is very, very, very baffling because it goes against the scientific ideas. And that is what the government should not actually do. This is what the author is saying here. The author is saying that yes, these people deserve an award, they deserve the recognition for the good job that they have done. But is it science? The author does not really confined by that. The author says that no, I don't believe this is science and technology. Yes, whatever they are doing deserves applause, but not this. They have not published any scientific papers. Their claims have not really been proven by anyone. Yes, they have been popular. Yes, they might have helped certain people, but that doesn't mean that we should compromise on the quality of these awards or compromise on the quality of scientific research. Now, the interesting part is, and you would have read this in Indian polity as well, Padma Awards always remain at the center of discussion. Sometimes people really applaud, people really appreciate the people who have been chosen for the Padma Awards. Some other years we have seen a lot of controversy about Padma Awards as well. In fact, we have also seen Padma Awards being questioned in the Supreme Court, where people have said, no, this is against Article 18. As you know, Article 18 talks about abolition of titles, so how can the government give Bharat Ratna, Padma Awards, etc.? So all these controversies have been related to Padma Awards for a long, long time, ever since our independence. For example, if you talk about the Padma Awards, all persons without distinction of any race, occupation, etc. are eligible for these awards. The government servants, however, those who are working with PSU that also are not eligible for these awards. So if you are working with the government, then you would not get this award. Usually Padma Awards are not given posthumously. Posthumously means after death. Usually they are not given, but again there are exceptions that the government can make. Even this year also the government has made certain exceptions. So usually you don't give it posthumously, but in some cases they are given posthumously as well. Also, higher category of Padma Award can be conferred on a person after 5 years. So for example, if you have been given Padma Shri in 2020, then under usual circumstances, the next award, that is Padma Bhushan, will be given to you not before 2025. So at least a period of 5 years is taken as the gap. But again, as I told you, usually, not always, the government decides. If there is a very, very, very exceptional achievement, then the government can go ahead and break this rule as well. But usually the 5-year time period is taken. But it is the government that decides. Those who are asking what is PSU? PSU is public sector undertaking, that is a government company. So ONGC, for example, Indian Oil, these kind of things can be called as PSUs, public sector undertakings, government companies. Then who actually decides these awards? So there is a committee, award committee formed by the government. So there is a Prime Minister who forms this committee. This committee is headed by the Cabinet Secretary. As you should know, Cabinet Secretary is the highest ranked IAS officer in the country. So Cabinet Secretary is the one who heads the committee. Then we have the Home Secretary, Secretary to the President, and other 4 to 6 eminent members. They then submit the report to Prime Minister, and the President will then take the call. Now, the interesting part is, Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, these are not the original names. Originally, we only had 2 civilian awards. Bharat Ratna, that all of you know, and we had Padma Vibhushan in 1954. Now, Padma Vibhushan had 3 categories actually. The Padma Vibhushan category were number 1, Pehla Varg, Dusra Varg and Tisra Varg. So there were 3 categories, 1, 2, 3. So rather than that, the government said, okay, let's not do first, second, third Varg. Let's have proper awards. So now we have Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, and then we have the Bharat Ratna, as you know, right? So this is how we have, as I told you, a lot of things, the rules that we discuss are what happens usually, but the government is within the rights to alter that as and when they want. They can alter the 5-year rule also, they can alter the posthumous rule also, which they have done in the past as well. The next article that we have is about the death sentences in India. Now, the question of death sentences, capital punishment, should it be given, should it not be given, these kind of debates are a part of our ethics paper as well, they are a part of our governance paper as well. There are a few countries in the world that have abolished death penalty, they don't give capital punishment. A lot of European countries especially have abolished capital punishment because they have proven by scientific studies that just because we give death sentence or capital punishment for some crimes, that does not reduce the number of crimes. They have proven this. And that is why many countries have abolished death penalty in Europe, but India and many other countries in Asia still give death penalty. Now, the author here or the article here is actually based on a report that came out recently. The report is not a government report, it's a report by a think tank. The title of the report is Death Penalty in India Annual Statistics 2022. The report says that in 2022, the number of death sentences that were given in 1 year were the most in the last 20 years. Now, this might seem as a very huge jump, but the reality is also slightly hidden. The reality is that it was a very high number because there was a very unfortunate case where 38 people together have been sentenced to death in Ahmedabad in a single bomb blast case. If you reduce that number, if you take that out, then it is the same kind of number of people who are given death sentences every year. The reason why in this year we have a much higher number is because of this case of 38 people getting the death sentence for one single case. Now, apart from that, there are other sides of the article as well. First, on December 31st, that is the final day of the year, 539 prisoners were on death row, meaning that when the year ended, there are 539 people in India's prisons who have been given death sentence, but they have not been given the death penalty so far. They are just waiting for the death penalty to happen. Now, why is this? There are multiple reasons behind it. See, even if someone is given death penalty in India, they still have multiple options that they can actually go. They can go ahead with the mercy petition. Now, as you know, when the mercy petition gets rejected, even then you can file a case in the Supreme Court saying that it was randomly rejected. You saw what happened in the Nirbhaya case. In Nirbhaya case, the convicts were given the death penalty so long ago, but they kept on filing petition after petition. They kept on coming up with certain excuses or the other, and they kept on delaying it. Similarly, there are about 539 prisoners in India that are on death row. The second problem here is, and you have to understand this, it is not that easy to give death sentence or death punishment to anyone. Not everyone can actually make all the arrangements. Not everyone can actually be in charge of those activities that will lead the person to death. There are specialized people, you call them Jallad in Hindi. There are specialized people that you require to actually carry out the death sentence. Those death sentences to be carried out also require a lot of preparation, and that also is something in which India doesn't have a lot of infrastructure. So there are a very few people in India who can actually go ahead and undertake all those activities where they can ensure that a death sentence is given properly. That is why we have a lot of prisoners who are still on the death row in India. Now, the report also tells what are the exact crimes for which people are usually given death sentences. As per the report, sexual violence cases are the ones where a lot of people are given death sentences. The imposition of death penalty that we see, about 51.28% of cases in which death penalty is given, meaning that over half of the people who were given death sentence in 2022 are the people who were accused of sexual violence in some way or the other. So that is again a very interesting and a very important fact for you to remember. Apart from that, as you can see, there is a very wide-ranging pattern of how many death sentences are given in different states. For example, we have different states that are giving different death sentences depending upon how the district judge, depending on how the sessions court, the trial court actually feels about it. Now, there is one other interesting aspect to this entire question of death penalty. Should death penalty be given or not, number one? Secondly, if death penalty is given, should it be used liberally or should it be actually used in a very limiting manner? If you look at the Supreme Court judgments in the past, the Supreme Court has time and time again reiterated the fact that death penalty should be used very, very, very rarely. Why? See, the entire point of a judicial system, the justice system has to choose whether you want to reform a person or you want retribution. Please understand this. There are two very different words, reform or retribution. Let's assume someone has committed a crime. Now, as a society, as a judicial system, what is your responsibility? Do you have to take revenge from that person? Would you tell that person that, see, you have committed this crime, now we are taking a revenge, you will also have to go through the same. If that is what the judicial system has to do, then retribution is the way forward, then obviously you should give death penalty. Anyone who kills someone, give death penalty, because that will be retribution. That will be retribution. Reform means you have to correct that person. You have to make the person better. As a judicial system, as a proper society, you have to choose between the two. Which is your priority? Do you have to reform or do you want retribution? In modern democracies, in any modern society, the countries want to reform and don't want retribution. Because retribution will be, if you hurt someone, you will be hurt back. As famously said, eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. So retribution is not what the judicial system is looking for. It is reforms that the judicial system must aim for. The Supreme Court says, once the state gives death penalty to someone, once someone's life is taken away, then there is no chance of reforming someone's life. If you want to reform someone's life, at the end of the day, you have to keep them alive. Retribution is not the way forward, because see, even in the judicial system, there is always scope for certain mistakes. There is always scope that at the end of the day, you might have a situation where the person was not found to be guilty, but you still actually punish the person. Now, in that case, how would you reform that person? That still remains a question. And that is why reform is the way forward and not the retribution. Now, this article also gives you certain data about how the number of prisoners on the death row have increased year after year, how the states where death penalty have been given are actually very different in the number of people who are given death penalty. This also shows you how many people have actually been, or their death sentence has actually been commuted over the years or not. I have a question here. Can district courts give death penalty? Yes, district courts can give death penalty. However, their death penalty before being carried out has to be confirmed by the High Court in all cases. High Court has to first confirm it and only then the death penalty will be carried out. But yes, the district courts can give death penalty as well. Now, there is also one very interesting issue here, and it was discussed a few months back. The Supreme Court took up a petition just a few months back, and the question was, should same-day sentencing be allowed or not? Let's try and understand something. Let's assume there's a case going on in the court, okay? One person is accused and there's a case going on against him. And it is proven that the person is guilty, okay? So let's say it is proven that the person is guilty. Now, you would, or the judge would have to decide the punishment. Now, in the movies, you would see the judge says you are guilty and the judge gives you punishment also. But in reality, that is not what happens. The rules say if the person has been confirmed as being guilty, then you would have to give some days. After some days, the court will again hear the matter to decide how much punishment should be given. Same day sentences should not be given. Meaning that if today it is proven that yes, you are guilty, then on the same day you cannot give the punishment to the person. You have to give some days to the lawyer. The lawyer would have to come back, and after some days only you can actually go ahead and give the sentence. However, this rule has not been followed by most of the courts. In a lot of courts we see that punishment is given on the same day as the judgment has been given. The Supreme Court has spoken up against this many times. The Supreme Court has said that if a person is adjudged guilty today and if the punishment is given the same day, it is unfair on the person because there is a possibility that he will be given a higher punishment. So ideally, you should actually wait for a few days, and after a few days only you can decide on the punishment. However, as I said, this is not being followed. The other part of the story is the Supreme Court also has said time and time again. In 1980, for example, they said in the Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab case, death penalty or capital punishment should only be in the rarest of the rare cases. Death penalty should only be in the rarest of the rare cases, and it should be used very, very rarely, and it should not be used very often. I have a question here. Governor cannot pardon death sentence. Doesn't matter death sentence, however it is given. For pardoning of a death sentence, it is the president only that can pardon it. Next, the next article that we have here is based on the UN General Assembly President. So the UN General Assembly President is in India right now. He is on a 4-day visit. After this, he'll go to China also. So UN General Assembly Presidents actually keep on moving from country to country. They keep on interacting with different governments, discussing global issues. So he is in India right now, and he is talking about the UNSC reforms. He is saying that there is no doubt that there are reforms that are required in the UN Security Council. Reforms such as increasing the number of permanent members, ensuring that the permanent members don't misuse their veto. All these things have to be done in the UNSC. However, he says that the first step has to be through the UN General Assembly. And the bigger problem is that the UN General Assembly itself is divided. The UN General Assembly of 193 members is divided into multiple groups, and the UN General Assembly is not able to decide whether they want the reforms or not. For example, we might think that every country wants reforms in the UNSC just because we want it. That is not true. You might have heard about a group of nations called the Coffee Club. Have you heard about Coffee Club? This is also known by one more name, UFC, Uniting for Consensus. There's a club called Coffee Club Uniting for Consensus. What they do is, they are the ones who oppose any reform in the UNSC in the way that India, Germany, Japan or Brazil want. So this club has members such as Italy, there are members such as Austria, Pakistan. They do not want these reforms that we are asking for. So it is not that every country wants to have reforms in the UNSC as India wants, as Brazil wants, as Germany or Japan wants. So the UN General Assembly President is saying the challenge first is to bring all the General Assembly members together, and then we can hope that in the UNSC we can have reforms. Yes, UNSC has its other kind of problems. The veto power makes the permanent members very, very powerful. They can stop any decision from being taken. However, in the UN General Assembly also there are many, many problems. Recently, our external minister had said that UN is as frozen 1945 invented mechanism, meaning that whatever UN had in 1945, the structure that they had, they are running in the same manner. While the entire world has changed, the power of the nations have changed, but still we are running in 1945 as per the UN. The good part is, to bring reforms in the UN, there is a committee that has been formed within the UN. So within the UN, 2 negotiators were appointed recently. The negotiators were permanent representative from Kuwait and Slovakia. These two people have been appointed to negotiate on how we can actually make UN better, on how we can reform the UN. Now, although we talk a lot about the UNSC being changed or UNSC's needs to change, but how do we actually change it? What is the process? So the process is that you have to amend the UN Charter. UN Charter means UN Constitution. Because the UN Charter originally says that there will be only 5 permanent members. So if you want to increase that, you have to change the Charter. So far, the UN Charter has been amended only once. That was to add non-permanent members. As you know, the UNSC has total of 15 members. 10 are non-permanent for a 2-year term. So these keep on changing after every 2 years, and then we have 5 permanent members who never change. These 5 permanent members also have veto power. So if one of them, veto means even if one of them says no, the decision will not go forward. The UNSC has been facing multiple issues: lack of representation, no representation, for example, from Africa, no representation from South American countries, and that is why there is a lot of protest that those parts of the world which have so large population, they are not represented properly. Look at Europe, such a small continent. They have France also representing them. They have UK also. Russia also is considered a half European country only. So while they have a lot of representation, many other parts of the world don't have any representation. Veto power is being misused every single time. If there is any resolution against a friend of the US will use a veto. Russia will do the same. China will use all the veto options wherever they want to. All these things actually remain a big issue. Then we also have the problem of G5 actually fighting with each other, not being actually coming together to resolve issues such as the UN Security Council war, or such as the Ukraine-Russia war exactly that we have. Now all these kind of issues that we have still remain an issue at the UN, and UNSC has not been able to solve that issue. Apart from that, there is also a problem that many people feel that the sovereignty is being compromised. Sovereignty being compromised means in the sense that UNSC has been given the power to actually decide, or UNSC has been given the power to resolve conflicts. So basically what the UNSC can do, or what the UNSC is supposed to do, is that the UNSC can actually go ahead and interact and take up matters of the world. For example, the UNSC has the responsibility to take up issues from all around the world. They have to maintain global peace. Now, the problem here is when they actually have to take up, or when they actually have problems where they have to maintain global peace and they go all around the world, the problem that we have is a lot of times they actually start interfering in all the other nations and their sovereignty. So that is why this is also a big issue that has not been resolved so far. So these are some of the problems that we have with the UNSC, and these were the important articles that we had for you today. This brings us to the end of the session. These are the important articles from the Hindu Newspaper that you needed to study today. You will get your practice questions as you always get, the 2 of them in the PDF. Please make sure that you download the PDF from the link given here and you can answer those questions. Let me tell you what these questions are. The first question is, instances of president's delay in commuting death sentences has come under public debate as denial of justice. Should there be a time limit specified for the president to accept or reject these kind of petitions? And second question that we have, building a forward-looking world requires comprehensive reforms at the UNSC. Elaborate. Both these questions have to be answered within 250 words each. Make sure you try and write the answer and use the student answer writing portal as well to give each other feedback, so that how can you actually improve. As I told you, the questions will be written on the last slide. Just download the PDF from the description of the video and you will get the questions from there. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.